Xiao Yan's terrifying soul attack struck the black-clad man before him, catching him completely off guard. After a brief pause, Xiao Yan immediately scooped up Yingying and moved away, putting nearly 10 meters between them and the black-clad man in an instant. The room itself was quite simple in design, furnished only with a few tables and teacups, and no more than 70 or 80 square meters in size. "Hey, kid, how did you get in here?" The black-clad man had recovered by now, but his voice was tinged with anger. As a dignified and powerful perfect 7-star Do-D, being infiltrated by someone merely at the 4-star Do-D level was enough to make him feel displeased. Xiao Yan's response was calm and indifferent. "You can't hide from everything forever. You're courting death. Don't blame me for what happens next." The black-clad man roared and raised his hand, launching an attack at Xiao Yan. The man's palm was a deep shade of black, and in the dim light, a strange aura seemed to swirl around it. "Corpse demon hand," he bellowed, and a surge of eerie black energy shot toward Xiao Yan. What terrifying power! This is definitely at the level of a 7-star Do-D, Xiao Yan thought to himself. But this aura, it's so similar to the ghostly energy from the ghost realm. With no clear answer coming to mind, Xiao Yan remained motionless, showing no intention of dodging the attack. Instead, he spoke calmly. "Master, have you seen enough of the show?" A hearty laugh echoed through the room. "Heh, you've got a sharp sense for soul energy, kid. No wonder you've already reached the peak of the first-rank Imperial class as an alchemist at such a young age." A voice boomed through the space, and suddenly an old man, looking lazy and unconcerned, materialized in the room. "Dosian?" At the sound of the voice, the black-clad man's menacing aura evaporated, and he cried out in shock. He quickly realized that an elderly man had appeared in the room. Though the old man showed no signs of Do-Chi, the black-clad man's very soul trembled at the sight of him. "Now that you're here, you won't be leaving," said the old man, known as Elder Zhu, as he casually waved his pale hand. A stream of silver Do-Chi shot out, tightly binding the black-clad man in place. No matter how much he struggled, he couldn't break free. "Damn it!" the black-clad man cursed, his voice raspy. He hadn't expected such a terrifying presence to be among Xiao Yan's companions. "Who sent you?" Elder Zhu stepped forward, his voice calm but menacing as he gazed at the restrained man. "Kill me if you want, but don't waste your time with questions," the black-clad man rasped, showing not the slightest hint of fear. Elder Zhu smiled faintly. "I already know the answer. It's the royal family, isn't it?" The old man's eyes glowed with an intense power as he stared into the black-clad man's face. "So what if it is? And what if it isn't?" The man retorted stubbornly. Elder Zhu's voice turned colder. "The royal family dared to try to harm my disciple. Now that I've caught you, I'll make sure they pay." As he spoke, the silver Do-Chi binding the man began to dim. Swoosh! The black-clad man, worthy of his status as a 7-star Do-D, immediately sensed the weakening of the restraining force. His aura flared, and in the next instant, he broke free, his figure leaping toward the ceiling, making a run for it. He knew that as a servant of the third prince, failure in this mission meant death, either from his enemies or at the hands of the prince himself, who was known for his ruthless disregard for anything but his own ambition. "Master, are you just going to let him escape?" Xiao Yan asked, somewhat surprised. He knew that the man must hold a significant position within the Yingying royal family. Letting him go was as good as releasing a tiger back into the wild. "Escape?" Elder Zhu chuckled. "Do you really think I'd let him go? I'm just playing the long game." As his words faded, Elder Zhu's body flickered, and he suddenly appeared on the rooftop of the building. From there, he could make out a faint figure merging seamlessly with the shadows in the distance. "Where do you think you're going?" Elder Zhu growled, his Do-Chi surging to life. But something was different this time. His silver Do-Chi had transformed into a dense, intertwining mass of black and white energy. "That power!" Xiao Yan's eyes narrowed in the room below, and the dragon spirit within him stirred. "He's reached the half-step Dosian level." Long Yi's voice trembled with awe. "Half-step Dosian?" Xiao Yan muttered aloud as his spiritual senses extended toward Elder Zhu. The moment his soul touched the black and white Do Chi, a deep shudder resonated through him, and he slumped to the floor. Life and death in harmony. A Do Xian expert. Xiao whispered, his voice filled with reverence. Do Xian, Mu Yingying, standing beside him, couldn't help but feel a surge of anxiety. Her brother's words echoed in her mind. Yingying, remember, humans can't be trusted. Stay away from them. And never, ever get close to a Do Xian. They will uncover your identity. Outside, in the darkened night sky, Elder Zhu's black and white Do Chi streaked toward the fleeing black-clad man. Swoosh! The life and death Do Chi carried an overwhelming force. As soon as it reached the man, it exploded with a terrifying power. Boom, boom, boom. A massive crater appeared in the earth below, and within it lay a lifeless, mangled figure. No sign of life remaining. This life and death Do Chi was truly fearsome beyond belief. No wonder Do Xian experts were so rare. Such power was unmatched. Perhaps I was a bit too heavy-handed, Elder Zhu remarked with a shake of his head. He knew that the black-clad man was merely a pawn, and there would have been no point in interrogating him. It was better to send a clear message to the Xinling royal family instead. You don't mess with disciples of Incense Pavilion's Zhujin. In a quiet wooden study elsewhere, the third prince, Xian Mu, sat in a state of unease, a scroll of ancient texts in his hand. He had been reading with great interest, but his concentration was abruptly shattered. Boom, boom. A wooden plaque on the top shelf of his bookcase exploded into pieces, its sudden destruction startling the prince. He's dead, Xian Mu whispered in disbelief. Damn it, he cursed. What's going on? How could Night Ghost, a 7-star Do D, be killed? And that woman, she was only at the 5-star Do D level. How could they? Xian Mu muttered to himself, his shock turning into frustration. Night Ghost had been a crucial figure, doing all the unsavory tasks for him over the years. Now, with his death, it was as if Xian Mu had lost a vital limb. After taking a deep breath to calm himself, Xian Mu stood and walked to the window. Opening it, he saw several figures in the sky above. Heh, so it's you, Zhu Jin, you old bastard, Xian Mu muttered, recognizing the muscular man standing in the distance. None other than the fifth elder of the ancient Desolation Palace, Huang Chuan, a formidable warrior on par with a perfect 7-star Do D. The translation would aim to maintain the richness of the original text while making the dialogue and narrative feel natural to English readers. Here's the translated excerpt, focusing on fluency, clarity, and tone. The ancient Desolation Palace was truly exceptional, as it focused on the cultivation of physical strength. Known for their explosive power generated through intense physical training, they were famed for their toughness. Unlike other sects that practiced Do Chi techniques, their focus on raw physical prowess set them apart. Still, no one dared underestimate them. Huang Chuan, I didn't expect to see you here, Elder Zhu said as he slowly drifted his gaze over to the newcomer. I never thought you'd be this close to stepping into the Do Xian realm. It truly puts us to shame, Huang Chuan replied with a hint of envy. After all, cultivating the body was far more difficult than practicing regular Do Chi techniques. Advancing through sheer physical strength made it an even more arduous path. By the way, just now, you? Huang Chuan started to ask. Nothing much, just dealt with a stray dog, Elder Zhu casually replied, glancing toward a certain direction. Haha, if it isn't the famous Zhu Jin, what did you find just now? The voice came from none other than the Xinling king of the Xinling royal family. Realizing the severity of the situation, the Xinling king had no choice but to step in. Otherwise, unnecessary panic might arise. That man tried to kill one of my disciples from the incense pavilion, but I accidentally killed him instead, Elder Zhu responded humorously, clearly unfazed by the Xinling king's presence. Haha, well, he got what he deserved, the Xinling king replied, though there was a trace of displeasure on his lips, fleeting as it was. As he sensed the subtle yet formidable aura emanating from Zhu Jin, his unease deepened. The Xinling king turned his gaze toward the figure lying in the massive crater, his brow furrowing. Isn't that one of Xian Mu's bodyguards? How could this happen? Despite his internal shock, The Xianling king kept his composure and said, "Since everything's settled, I suggest we all head back. Tomorrow, the auction begins. Let's go. Time to disperse," Elder Zhu remarked before disappearing into the sky. Returning to his inn. "Teacher, are you all right?" Xiao asked. "I'm fine. You should go rest," Elder Zhu said calmly. "Understood." Xiao and Mu Yingying replied in unison. "There's something strange about Mu Yingying. I can't seem to figure it out," Elder Zhu muttered as he watched her leave. In the sky above, the Xianling king collected the battered figure and vanished, returning to the palace. "Summon Xian Mu at once," the Xianling king demanded, clearly enraged. Damn that Zhu Jin. Who would have thought he'd break through to half-step Do Xian? That attack just now carried an overwhelming power of life and death, stronger than even most half-step Do Xian experts. The Solomon clan members sent to surround him are likely in grave danger. But that's fine. The more of them that die, the better. Ha ha ha. The Xianling king laughed darkly. A half-step Do Xian. Even with 1 peak Do D and 2 8-star Do D experts, it wouldn't make a difference, no matter how many we send. Although the Xianling royal family and the Solomon clan had a long-standing cooperation, they weren't bound by any unbreakable allegiance. When disaster loomed, each would protect their own interests. The Xianling king smirked, thinking, the weaker the Solomon clan gets, the easier it'll be to rule the mystic 3 heavens in the future. "Father, you summoned me?" A refined voice broke the silence. "Xian Mu, tell me what happened today," the Xianling king asked, though his displeasure was apparent. "Well, today, in the medicinal market, I encountered a female disciple from the incense pavilion. I sensed a familiar aura from her, so I took it upon myself to capture her for further investigation. But things didn't go as planned," Xian Mu explained, his face pale as he glanced at the corpse-like figure nearby. He was deeply shaken, knowing that this was a perfect 7-star Do D level figure who had been killed in an instant. The attacker's strength must have been terrifying. No need to guess, it was Zhu Jin. "It seems we tried to assassinate one of his disciples at the Xianling Imperial Pool, and this is his warning to us," the Xianling king said quietly. "Half-step Do Xian?" Xian Mu gasped in shock. "There's no mistake. That power, the merging of life and death." The Xianling king replied gravely. "It seems we can't allow the incense pavilion to exist any longer. Father, I believe the decapitation plan should be advanced," Xian Mu suggested. "Once I return from the desolate wasteland, we can begin," the Xianling king agreed. "May you return victorious, father," Xian Mu said respectfully. "That's enough for now. Keep a low profile. These are dangerous times," the Xianling king cautioned. "And when I return, it'll be time for a change on the throne," he added ominously. "Yes, father," Xian Mu replied, though he couldn't hide his excitement. "Humph, Xian Mu, you're quite vain. Let's hope you don't make any more mistakes, or else," the Xianling king mused to himself. "It's time for the Xianling royal family to lie low for a while. Despite our recent surge in power, it's all due to our dealings with the Soul clan. As for the Solomon clan, they're nothing more than stepping stones. Once I ascend to Do Xian, they'll either submit or die. I suppose it's time to send someone to negotiate with the Soul clan. Once I break through to Do Xian, the entire mystic 3 heavens will be mine." The Xianling king chuckled, his body briefly enveloped in a faint red flame, stronger than even the 23 fused heavenly flames that Xiao possessed. The night passed in silence, and dawn soon arrived. As the first rays of sunlight touched Xianling City, the streets were packed with people. Today marked the beginning of something extraordinary. Today was the grand auction of the entire mystic 3 heavens, held only once every decade. Every time the auction was held, rare and precious items would be presented, making the Xianling royal family's auction a truly grand spectacle throughout the region. The Xianling auction had 5 venues, each named after the classical ranks: Immortal, Heaven, Earth, Mystic, and Yellow. The Immortal Auction Hall was reserved for the heads and core members of the most powerful factions. It was the grandest venue, where countless priceless treasures were exchanged. Slightly lower in prestige was the Heaven Auction Hall, where only the most prominent figures of the mystic three heavens could enter. While not as grand as the immortal auction, it still featured remarkable items. Then there was the Earth Auction Hall, frequented mostly by mercenary groups. The items here were often healing elixirs or curious artifacts. The Mystic and Yellow auction halls were open year-round for smaller, less valuable items. "Let's go," Xiao said as he left his room, lightly knocking on Yingying's door on the way. After yesterday's events, he felt even more concerned about her, sensing that she held some sort of secret, though he was hesitant to ask. Yes, a sweet, bell-like voice responded from within, and a graceful hand gently opened the door. "You look beautiful today," Xiao said, caught off guard by Yingying's sudden elegance. Normally, she wore simple robes with her hair tied up for convenience in training and travel. But today, her entire being exuded a subtle fragrance, her hair meticulously styled with silver hairpins that added to her charm. Her long eyelashes and vibrant lips gleamed, while her delicate shoulders and collarbones peeked alluringly from beneath her robes. Before Xiao could recover, Yingying threw on a large cloak, covering her exposed skin. "Let's go," she said, walking ahead. Xiao coughed awkwardly, following her down the stairs. At the inn's entrance, Elder Zhu and Mu Feng were already waiting. "Let's move," Elder Zhu said, glancing at Yingying. Mu Feng noticed something odd between Yingying and Xiao but remained silent, following Elder Zhu out into the crowded streets leading to the Xinling Royal Auction. "Wow, look at all these people," Mu Feng exclaimed, his eyes nearly popping out of his head. Having spent much of his time fighting ghost creatures, this was the first time he'd seen such a mass of humanity. "This is just the tip of the iceberg," Elder Zhu chuckled. After all, the Xinling Royal Auction only happens once every 10 years, and it's one of the grandest events in all of the mystic three heavens. Elder Zhu's mood had noticeably improved after his confrontation with the Xinling royal family, having revealed his half-step Douxian strength. Xiao heard this and casually observed the bustling crowd of passers-by. Even the patrol guards have the strength of a mid-level 5-star Do D, he noted as he noticed the armored soldiers maintaining order along the road. Each of them wore heavy armor, yet their efficiency and professionalism were unmistakable. Their discipline showed they were clearly well-trained. Tiger's Head? These are soldiers from the Tiger Fang Legion, aren't they? Xiao muttered to himself, recognizing the tiger emblem on the soldiers' shoulders. Even the Tiger Fang Legion has been dispatched to maintain order this time. Looks like the Xinling royal family is pulling out all the stops for this event. Elder Zhu remarked as he too noticed the soldiers. "Elder Zhu, what exactly is being auctioned this time?" Mu Feng asked curiously. "Don't look at me. Even I have no idea what's on sale this time," Elder Zhu chuckled. "Since the Xinling royal family has mobilized the Tiger Fang Legion, the Wolf Eagle Legion must be involved as well. And as for the auction items, not even the Xinling king himself probably knows the full details. The royal family has done an outstanding job keeping this under wraps," Elder Zhu added with a hint of admiration. "Here we are." Just as Elder Zhu finished speaking, the group arrived in front of a massive structure. Standing before it, Xiao and the others felt utterly insignificant, like ants compared to the colossal building that occupied the entire mountain peak. The structure was entirely gray and hundreds of meters wide. From the outside, it resembled a giant watermelon sliced clean in half, with the elliptical building towering over the mountain. At the center of the building's facade stood a grand inscription, "Immortal." Even from a distance, Xiao could sense the grandeur and majesty of the Immortal Auction Hall. If the exterior alone was this imposing, one could only imagine how magnificent the inside must be. Haha, the Xinling royal family went to great lengths to have this immortal auction hall built by the Tu family, Elder Zhu explained as they gazed at the structure. The Tu family. Let's hope it's not such a coincidence, Xiao mused, deep in thought. He vividly recalled encountering a rude young woman at the medicinal market, who had worn a jade pendant engraved with the character Tuesday. Her robust Do Chi suggested that she too might be from the Tu family. The Tu family was highly regarded by the Xinling royal family, and Xiao had no desire to get entangled in any grudges with them. He dismissed the thought, choosing to view the mental damage fee he had demanded from the girl as nothing more than a joke. Teacher, Tu Ling arrived at the base of the immortal auction hall and addressed the elder before her. Here, this is the compensation that the alchemist requested. When you see him, give it to him yourself. Tu Ling's teacher replied absent-mindedly, still upset after being reprimanded by the family patriarch. Tu Ling, the young princess of the Tu family, was always causing trouble. Oh, by the way, that person is from the incense pavilion. I believe his name is Xiao, the elder added. Xiao? Huh. How dare he embarrass me like that? I'll make sure he pays. Tu Ling huffed angrily as she took the storage ring her teacher had prepared and headed toward the auction hall. Let's go inside and see for ourselves, Elder Zhu said as they stood at the foot of the immortal auction hall. Xiao and his companions couldn't help but feel a sense of awe as they gazed up at the enormous mountain and the immense structure atop it. The cost of constructing such a colossal building was surely astronomical. Let's move. Xiao and the others wasted no time, taking to the air. The auction hall was located at the mountaintop, but since today's guests were prominent figures from powerful factions, the Yingying royal family had temporarily lifted the flying restriction around the immortal auction hall, allowing them to soar toward the entrance. In no time, they reached the hall's mountaintop entrance. The massive structure loomed before them, with only a small doorway visible, the rest hidden behind rock formations. A luxurious red carpet, stretching dozens of meters, was laid out in front of the entrance, adding to the venue's grandeur. Near the entrance, several beautiful women with curvaceous figures and slender waists greeted the arriving guests with warm smiles. Xiao glanced at them and noticed the alluring charm that radiated from their every move, clearly the result of specialized training in maximizing their appeal. Young Master Sun, you've arrived early today, one of the women said softly, casting flirtatious glances at a young man approaching the entrance. Her voice was as smooth as silk. It's not that early, replied young Master Sun, a man clad in full armor. His gaze lingered on the woman's figure, imagining her in his arms. But the thought vanished as quickly as it came, for he knew that these women were trained to entertain without compromising themselves. Should he cross the line, not even being a member of the Sun family would save him from severe consequences. The Sun family held a prominent position within the Yingying royal family, with young Master Sun being a figure of some importance. This man, he's a mid-level 5-star Do-D, Xiao realized, quietly marveling at the man's strength. It was said that within the Yingying royal family, two major families held great influence. One was the Tu family, and the other was the Sun family. The Tu family was responsible for nearly all the construction within the Yingying royal family and Yingying city, while the Sun family oversaw the city's security. However, it was widely acknowledged that the Tu family was more favored, having constructed the Great Wall that successfully repelled the Medusa clan's invasion, thus earning immense respect within the royal family and city. Young Master Sun, your father is already inside. He asked me to tell you to hurry in, the beautiful woman said sweetly. I know, young Master Sun responded before turning his gaze to Xiao group. Among them, 3 young men and 1 elderly man were slowly approaching the entrance. The 2 youths seemed unremarkable, and the elderly man appeared to be lazily looking around. What caught young Master Sun's eye, however, was the woman. She was strikingly beautiful, with a graceful figure, gently rising chest, and long eyelashes that accentuated her charm. A feeling he couldn't quite describe surged within young Master Sun, even though he was no stranger to the company of beautiful women. Cough, cough. Noticing young Master Sun's lingering gaze, Yingying softly cleared her throat in reminder. Xiao had already sensed young Master Sun's attention, but chose not to act. After all, this was the immortal auction hall, where all the guests were prominent figures. There was no need to stir up unnecessary trouble. Haha, may I ask which faction this young lady is from? Young Master Sun withdrew his gaze and politely inquired. Though the woman intrigued him, he understood that anyone who could attend this event must be associated with a powerful faction, and it was better to tread carefully. The woman at the entrance hesitated, caught off guard by young Master Sun's sudden question. Though they served as greeters for the auction guests, their knowledge of the guests' affiliations was limited. What's the matter? Don't tell me you're going to embarrass me, Young Master Sun? Young Master Sun's expression darkened, clearly displeased. Young Master Sun, I wouldn't dare. It's just that we weren't informed about such details, so... The woman stammered, visibly flustered. Though the Sun family's role was primarily as guards, their influence was considerable. With young Master Sun's father being an 8-star Do-D, even a lowly servant wouldn't dare cross them. Not afraid to die, are you? Young Master Sun raised his hand in anger, preparing to strike. As a mid-level 5-star Do-D, his attack could easily leave the woman in a dire situation. Humph! A crisp voice echoed as a petite woman suddenly appeared, blocking young Master Sun's attack. Young Master Sun, bullying a defenseless woman? Aren't you ashamed? Tuliying sneered as she stood between them. Thank you, Miss Tuliying, the woman said gratefully, relieved that she was unharmed. Humph! Young Master Sun grunted. Tuliying, mind your own business, or else? Or else what? Tuliying responded, unfazed. Enough, I'm not going to argue with you. Goodbye. Young Master Sun huffed before making his way into the immortal auction hall. Here, Xiao, this is the compensation I owed you from before, Tuliying said as she approached Xiao after confirming the woman wasn't hurt. She handed him a simple storage ring. This, Miss Tu, I appreciate the gesture, but you really don't need to. Let's just consider it water under the bridge, Xiao replied, trying to decline. His initial impression of Tuliying had been one of arrogance and rudeness, but her recent display of justice had softened his opinion of her. Just take it. I was in the wrong before, Tuliying said without any hint of displeasure. After all, in her Tu family, it was rare for someone from her generation to catch her attention, but Xiao definitely stood out as one of them. Well, if you insist, then I'll accept it, Xiao replied nonchalantly. He could tell through his perception that the storage ring contained a few Imperial-class pills, which, while highly valuable, were insignificant to a family as wealthy as the Tu family. The man just now was Sun Xiang, from another prominent family within the Xinling royal family. It's said that despite his young age, he has already reached the mid-level of the 5-star Do-D realm. Rumor has it he's aiming to replace his father, Tuliying continued, filling Xiao in on the details.